Question 2 is a critical thinking question, so let's jump to the end and see what's being asked. We're being asked, which of the following is a conclusion which may be drawn from the following passage? So let's go through the passage and summarise the contents. Forest fires in Indonesia have emitted 1.6 gigatons of CO2. To put that in perspective, it's been estimated that the entire world must emit less than 1,000 gigatons of CO2 every year from now on if we're to avoid dangerous global warming. When forest fire vegetation burns, the amount of CO2 released into the atmosphere can be taken back up again if the plants regrow. But Indonesia is not just the plants that are burning. Peat that has accumulated over thousands of years is also on fire, releasing buried carbon. Forest fires in Indonesia burn most fiercely in regions where it's drier, as it was this year. Rain has recently arrived in Indonesia and the number of new fires has dropped. So, option A says that these forest fires in Indonesia will prevent the achievement of world targets for CO2 emissions. Now, looking at the text, we can see that 1.6 gigatons of CO2 was released, but that was compared to 1,000 gigatons, which is the target required to avoid global warming. So there are many other contributing factors, and we don't know if this is enough to swing the prevention of missing world targets. So we can't reliably conclude this. Option B says that it's likely that some of the CO2 from the fires in Indonesia will remain in the atmosphere. So we do know that some of the CO2 can be taken up again by regrowth when vegetation burns, but we're told about the peat also burning, releasing carbon. So on balance, it's likely that some CO2 will be left behind. So that can be reliably concluded. Option C says that it's unlikely that forest fires will emit as much CO2 next year as they have emitted this year. Now, there is next to nothing in this text that would suggest that, let alone let it be reliably concluded, apart from a throwaway mention that it was drier this year than it has been in previous years. So we cannot, on balance, reliably conclude this to be true. Option D says that if forest fires were better prevented or controlled, dangerous global warming would not occur. Now, this goes far beyond the scope of what's in this text. All that's mentioned about global warming is that 1,000 gigatons is required to exceed limits, and 1.6 gigatons was contributed by this bout of forest fires. We haven't talked about the other 998 gigatons and whether they should be better prevented or controlled to prevent dangerous global warming, so we can't conclude this. This gives us our answer, B, which says that it's likely that some of the forest fires' emissions will remain in the atmosphere.